Well, we're almost there, everybody. The Last of Us Part 2 is 64 days away. Well, that's if this bitch ass coronavirus doesn't cause another delay with all the lockdowns and quarantines going on around the world. Seems like we're eventually going to have our own real life quarantine zones to report to, just like in the first game. And I damn sure ain't looking forward to that. But, anyways, I plan on putting out a series of different Last of Us related videos between now and the release of Part 2, and this is just the first of those. So what I want to talk about is the ending of the first game. Now I know the game released in 2013 and thousands of fans have already posted their opinions on YouTube explaining what they think. But sadly, because I didn't get around to playing the game until 2018 because I was a PC gamer and didn't want to invest in a console when the game first released, I never really got to speak on how I feel about the ending. But since The Last of Us Part 2 hype train is ramping up, I figured now is the best time to do so. So first off, I want to say this video probably won't be as articulate or thought-provoking as others because I'm dumb as shit and I suck at speaking. I've been a socially awkward introvert my whole life, and I was self-isolating before it was the cool thing to do. So that ending, there are a multitude of ways to interpret it. Some think Joel is a good guy, some think he's a bad guy, and some are neutral on how they feel about him. But to the people who think he's a bad guy and felt wrong for saving Ellie and dooming mankind, let me ask you a few questions. Firstly, replace Ellie with your kid. Now, would you leave them there to be killed and sacrificed, or would you save them? And if you save them, would you consider yourself a bad guy? I would 100% save my kid, and I would not feel like a bad guy at all, because when you become a parent, your job is to protect and take care of your kids, and leaving your kid to die for a potential cure is a big parenting fail, and I would feel more like a bad guy letting my kid die than I would dooming the whole world. Another question is, when Joel was driving away from the lab, before we seen that Ellie was in the car and that he shoots Marlene, were you hoping he left Ellie there to die for the cure, or were you hoping she was in the car with him? Because I was damn sure hoping she was in the car with him, because I felt the same way about Ellie that Joel did. Fuck the Fireflies and fuck the world was my motto at the time, and that's the reason I'm one of the people who feel neutral about Joel, because I don't see him as a good guy or a bad guy. I see him as a man who had to endure and survive for 2 decades without his daughter, a daughter that was taken from him too soon because of the virus in the military. And if you're looking at the situation through Joel's eyes, which you should since you played as him for 12 plus hours or 100 plus hours if you replayed the game on every single difficulty, you can see why he wasn't willing to let the virus in the military, or in this case, a militia, be the reason he loses another baby girl. You gotta understand, Joel spent 20 years grieving over his daughter. He kept the watch she gave him to always remember her by. But anytime somebody mentioned Sarah, he didn't want to talk about her because it hurt too much. And over the course of the game, he started to become more open with Ellie about Sarah. And Jackson, his own brother, tried to give him a picture of Sarah, but he wouldn't take the picture or even talk about her with him. But by the end of the game, Ellie gives him that same picture and he accepts it and says, no matter how hard you try, you can't escape your past.
Well, no matter how hard you try, I guess you can't escape your past. Thank you.
So him saving Ellie was him escaping his past. It was a way of not letting the past repeat itself. Because if he would have let the Fireflies go through with the surgery, he would have lost another daughter, and the past would have continued to haunt him. He was unable to save Sarah, which I'm sure he blamed himself for every day after her death. But he was able to save Ellie, and afterwards he probably felt vindicated. And when walking back to Jackson at the very end of the game, Joel even talks about Sarah one last time and mentions how Ellie would have liked her and how they would have gotten along.
Don't think I ever told you, but Sarah and I used to take hikes like this. I think the two of you would have been good friends. I think you really would have liked her. I know she'd have liked you.
I bet I would have.
The fact that he accepted the picture of Sarah and was open to talking about her lets you know he was finally over the grieving process. He could finally move on, and even though Ellie could never truly replace Sarah, she was able to alleviate the pain and guilt Joel has felt all these years from losing her and replace that pain with love. Now, some people are saying Joel was selfish for saving Ellie and that he did it for himself, not her, which is understandable. Like I said previously, he didn't want to lose another daughter. Over the year he was traveling with Ellie trying to get her to the Fireflies, they formed a special father-daughter bond, a bond he had not had in 20 years. And he didn't want to lose that regardless of a vaccine. And when Marlene tells him that she won't feel anything, he knew he was going to feel everything. The pain of losing her would have been too much to bear, and I think he probably would have taken his own life like Henry did after Sam's death. And some people seem to think Ellie would have wanted to die to save the world. Probably because she was adamant about getting to the Fireflies throughout the whole journey, and when Joel told her they didn't have to go through with it and could just go back to Tommy, she said, "It can't be for nothing."
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
What's the other option?
Go back to Tommy's. Just be done with this whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
Problem is, we don't know if she wanted to die for the cure or not. Marlene didn't give her a choice, just like Joel didn't give her a choice. I think Marlene should have woken Ellie up to ask her before proceeding with the surgery. We know she didn't because at the end when Joel steps out of the elevator, Marlene says it's what she would want, not it's what she wants. If she had asked Ellie before the surgery, Marlene would have most likely mentioned that to Joel. But then again, maybe she did ask Ellie. Maybe that's why Ellie said what she did to Joel at the end and gave him that look like she didn't believe him before the credits rolled. Maybe Ellie knew she was going to die for the vaccine and was disappointed in Joel for taking that away from her. But I really don't think Marlene asked her though. Now, I'm about to play a few clips of Joel and Ellie talking, so you can see why I don't think she would have wanted to die.
How will they do it?
Do what?
Get the cure from me? You think it'll hurt?
No, they'll probably just draw some blood. It don't hurt.
I've gotten shots before. They vaccinated us at school. It sucked. We'll go wherever you want. Okay?
Well, I ain't leaving without you. So let's go wrap this up.
Hey, that's what we can do once we're done.
What's that?
You can teach me how to swim.
You got it.
What happened here? Your fellow hunters do this?
Cute. And no, my money's on the military.
Why would they mow down all these people?
You can't let everyone in.
So they killed them?
And dead people don't get infected. You sacrifice the few to save the many.
It's kind of shitty.
So as you can see, Ellie was worried about how they were going to get the vaccine from her, and Joel made her believe they were only going to be taking blood. They were also making plans for what they were going to do after leaving the Fireflies facility, like going anywhere Joel wanted to go and teaching Ellie how to swim. Plus, when Joel says they sacrificed the few to save the many, Ellie responded with, "That's shitty," meaning I don't think she would have been cool with being one of the few sacrificed to save the many. So in my opinion, Ellie would not have wanted to die to create a vaccine. And I don't really think Joel was selfish. It was him saving her after she had saved him. Ellie saved Joel not once but 3 times. The first time was in Pittsburgh when she shot the guy who was drowning him. The second time was after he got impaled on the rebar. And the third time was emotionally. She saved him from the years of emotional turmoil brought on by his daughter's death. So when he saved her, he wasn't just doing it for himself. He was also doing it for her because he loved her, couldn't picture living the rest of his life without her, and he was also returning the favor and saving her from a death that she was probably not cool with. And sure, Ellie's brain could have been used to create a cure and save the world. And because of Joel, that didn't happen. But you also have to think there was no 100% guarantee a cure could have come from killing Ellie. Sure, if you listen to the surgeon's recording, he makes it seem like they'd definitely be able to concoct a cure, but they wouldn't know until after extracting Ellie's brain. And if they did, ran a bunch of tests, and still couldn't create a vaccine, Ellie would have died for nothing. That whole year of Joel and Ellie traveling across the country, risking their lives every day, would have been a waste. And for those that say a vaccine would have been guaranteed, let's just say Joel left. They killed Ellie, extracted her brain, and created a vaccine. How would they distribute the cure to the whole world? Would they even be able to create enough vaccine for every single person? Would they be able to deliver the vaccine to every single country in the world without airplanes? Yeah, I'm sure there are probably a few working aircrafts lying around the world. But would they be safe to fly after not running for 21 years? And if they decided to deliver the vaccine by sea using boats or ships, that could take forever. And those boats would require gasoline to travel that far, which is something else the world is no longer producing. The only way to get gas is to siphon it from other vehicles. Plus, is the world really worth saving? I mean, think about it. A large chunk of the world's population are either dead or infected. Those still alive are either hunters, bandits, or a part of some other sadistic faction. And there probably aren't too many civilized communities like Tommy's around the world. And with all the major cities completely destroyed from carpet bombing, would people even be able to clean up everything and rebuild back to the way things were? There are just too many questions to ask without answers. So even if a vaccine was created, it doesn't mean the world would ever go back to the way it was. You gotta understand the world no longer has all the resources it did 21 years prior. So I say things would have not gotten any better even with the vaccine thrown in the mix. And I think Joel probably thought about that also. Joel knew the world wasn't worth saving, so he decided to save Ellie instead, who was his world. I mean, he lost Sarah, he lost Tess trying to get Ellie to the Fireflies, and he figured losing somebody else he cared about wasn't worth saving a world filled with people he didn't give a shit about. But that's just my opinion, though. We all have them, and none of us know for a fact that any of our opinions are facts. I mean, we can speculate until part 2 gives us some of the answers, I guess. Now, speaking of part 2, we're definitely going to see what happens when Ellie finds out Joel lied. We're going to see how Ellie reacts when she finds out that Joel murdered most of the Fireflies, including Marlene, who is pretty much Ellie's adoptive mother from a distance for 14 years. Marlene was the one person that knew her biological mother. She even gave Ellie the switchblade that belonged to her mom and a letter her mother wrote to her. So Marlene was pretty important to Ellie, and I think Ellie is going to be more pissed off and devastated over the death of Marlene than not being sacrificed for the greater good. Now, I don't know how Ellie is going to find out the truth, though. Maybe Joel will feel guilty and confess it to her, or maybe a surviving Firefly who was there the night of Joel's rampage will tell her somehow. I know Tommy got in contact with the Fireflies in the first game, which is how he found out that they were going to be at the University of Eastern Colorado. So maybe the Fireflies will get a hold of him, tell him what happened, and Tommy will end up being the one who tells Ellie. I mean, Tommy was good friends with Marlene before he left the Fireflies. So once he finds out what Joel did, the relationship between him and Joel might go bad. We know Joel did a lot of brutal shit Tommy didn't agree with over the 20 years since the outbreak. Shit that still gives Tommy nightmares. And we know that he told Joel he never wanted to see his goddamn face again because of it. So I feel like both Tommy and Ellie will be infuriated with Joel once they find out the full truth. And I know it's been 5 years since the ending of the last game, so if the Fireflies were going to get in contact with Tommy and or retaliate, I feel like they would have done it a lot sooner than 5 years, but maybe they had to wait until they could regroup, recruit a lot of new members, get a new leader, and formulate a proper revenge plan. I don't know. I really feel like the Fireflies are going to be the cause of the violent act that sends Ellie on her path of revenge, which is why we haven't heard anything about them. We've been told about the WLF and the Seraphites, two groups that are going to be a threat and have their own part in the story. But I feel like neither one of those groups are the cause of Ellie's revenge quest. Anyways, I gotta save all my thoughts on that for a different video, because this is just supposed to be about the first game's ending. So anyways, thanks for watching, you bunch of badasses. Leave your thoughts on the ending below, and remember, no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. And The Last of Us Part 2 is that something.